Hello and good time zone to you, and welcome back to A Veiled Tete a Tete. I'm your host, Lily, sitting here with my co host and husband, Eric.
Hello, hello.
So wow, it is, it has been a week. It has been, wow, what a week it has been so far,
Mhm.
already. Um, but it has been a week since we first, recorded and aired our rather debuted our new podcast. So
Yes,
this is
indeed.
episode 2. Um, what? Yeah. Um, how's the week been going?
Ooh, yeah, it's been going. It is a week out from Thursday as we record this. Week out from Thursday. It is Thursday. A week out from Thanksgiving.
Oh God, yes, it is.
It is.
Shit. Shit.
Yeah. Um,
There we go, live, guys. I just got hit in the face.
with Thanksgiving. Um, Other than that, we moved some appliances and storage things this weekend, and
Oh
all week
yes.
long I have felt old and decrepit after that.
Oh yeah, I had a major meltdown because of that.
Mm.
Yeah, because I'm fine, guys. I'm fine. It's great. It's cool. It's great. We're great. Everything's great. Everything's fine. Um, but no, about getting old.
Oh, yes, yes, yes. This is true. I remember that.
Yeah, just like everybody around me was doing shit. I'm just sitting here like, I don't want to be helpless. I don't want to be old. Wah.
Weh. It's all good.
But yeah.
Anything new in your neck of the wood, or anything that you want to bring up that is new?
We had a session 0 last night with two I had a brief thought of what I was gonna say to this, and I forgot what. Oh, right, two other people that I'm flirting with.
Yeah.
That's what I decided to that I was gonna because I had a conundrum of how I was gonna bring this up. Um, but we had a session 0 with two other people that I'm flirting with.
Yes. And just for people who don't know, session 0 of a Pathfinder, more or less,
Yes.
when the game master and all the players sit down, sort of explain ground rules, how the game upcoming is going to be, and get all your characters ready, and it's sort of like a meeting before the game officially gets rolling.
Yeah, you get to meet each other and learn how the since we do it remotely through Foundry, learn as much as can be taught at one time about the system, and they're both new to Pathfinder, and so it's like
Mhm.
here's a lot of information that you're not going to remember any of it, but here's some information anyways. But
Yeah.
yeah, it was fun. It was fun. Um realized just how shy one of them was.
Yeah.
Didn't realize it because I was the total shy person that was like super nervous about meeting them.
Hmm.
So when they got there, they kind of held my hand into it. So now I'm having to hold their hand into this. And that's not anything to say derogatory about them.
Yeah, no.
Just I was going into the unknown situation. Now they're going into an unknown situation, and they need support because I've never seen them in any unknown situations before. So because I have not known them for very long.
Yes.
But that actually uh kind of brings us to what we're going to talk about tonight, this time, the information in which you're going to hear part about in this episode, uh, which is polyamory.
Mm.
Uh, when we introduced ourselves, I did mention that I was polyamorous. Um, and the interesting fact about that is I am.
And I am not.
Yeah. Collo- Collectively, we're still considered polyamorous because one person
Yes.
is in the relationship, but he's not, and I am. Uh, so now you're like, okay, well, what is polyamory? Polyamory is a kind of ethical non-monogamy, and polyamory is defined as the practice of engaging in multiple romantic and typically sexual relationships with the consent of all people involved. Wow, that's an I would say that's a new thing going on in our generation, but it really isn't. It really isn't.
What's that?
Polyamory.
No, no, not at all. It's sort of always been around, and especially in the society we have and we have grown up in, it's been around, but it's always sort of been on the down.
Yeah. It as far as when I think about history, when I think about it for a second, it's like that has been stories like that throughout history. So, it's actually not something new. Um, but the community as a whole, um, you have ethical non-monogamy. You have monogamy and then you have ethical non-monogamy. You also have unethical monogamy and unethical non-monogamy. But so ethical non-monogamy, also known as E&M, uh is kind of the top of the umbrella. So what is the difference between ethical non-monogamy and polyamory? Well, like I just said, it's the top of the umbrella, right? So all polyamory is E&M, but not all E&M is polyamory. That makes sense?
Yeah, more or less.
So like for instance, and I'll define this a little bit more like later in my outline, is that swingers. If you've ever heard of a swinger. Have you ever heard of swingers? I'm sure you have. You're
Yes,
much more brilliant than
absolutely.
I am.
I know the pineapple folk.
Oh shit, I think I remember you telling me about that.
Yes.
Something about leaving a pineapple out would let you know that they're swingers or something.
Yeah, that's apparently a thing.
Obviously, I might be polyamorous, but I'm not a swinger because I don't know this.
I don't know that all do. I think that's
I think that's probably a trope.
kind of, and I think it
I
obviously
wonder.
not being a swinger, it might be more of a like an older. swinger thing.
I wonder if it would become more ironically unironic or unironically ironic or something, like to where that like whichever way it goes.
I don't think it goes either of those ways, to be
Okay,
honest.
fine. I'm using words that I don't know what they mean, but where the younger swingers, it didn't happen because it was cringe, but then it starts happening because it's cringe.
Yeah, I sort of get the idea you're going at, of using it because it's cringe, and so using it ironically.
Yeah, so like it would be a laugh. Oh, you're really not swingers. And I'm like, no, yeah, we're totally swingers. And then the person that they're like, no, they're not. They're joking, right? And then be like, no, they're really actually not joking. That's the joke. But anyways, so they are E&M, ethical non-monogamy, but they're not polyamorous because swingers don't tend to form committed relationships, though they do have sexual encounters with people that are outside their established relationship. So he has access to this outline too, but I went and did like a quick deep dive, if that makes sense. I had some questions and I got the answers for those questions. I didn't uh go floating around in the topic to find out all this information, if that makes sense. Welcome to my brain and my neurodivergent talk. So there are relationships are unique, just like humans are unique because they're perpetuated by humans. So no two are going to be alike. So there's never a hard outline or a hard rule. The first thing I say is there's no one right way to have a polyamorous or any relationship really, because what this does is it removes the constraints that monogamy puts on relationships. And so there's no one right way to do E&M or polyamory or relationships, period, as long as everybody involved is consenting.
Yeah.
But there is a list of generalized terms and categorizations for ethical non-monogamy. So, and maybe into more of these, there's even more terms that I don't know, but just at a cursory glance, this is what I found. So let's see how many of these you have heard of and understand what they are without me explaining them. So first, we're going to start with what is most familiar to me, which is polyamory, which is the practice of having multiple intimate relationships simultaneously. So within polyamory, there's also categories of types of relationships inside of polyamory. Now this, I'm going to trip myself up on this because I always have a hard time saying this word. It's hard to get out of my mouth. Hierarchical polyamory, which is, have you heard of this?
Yes, of course.
Okay, so it is the prioritization of partners, where you have a primary partner, a secondary partner, so on and so forth. Give me just a second. I need a drink. So, which, to be fair, I do also want to. That's two things that I didn't, uh, or one thing that I didn't put in there that I'll notate. Uh, let me actually notate this so I don't forget. Uh, but um, what was I trying to say? Um, oh yes, hierarchical polyamory. Sorry. Um, so it is something that is kind of looked at negatively in the E&M community, only because usually it's done without the consent of all involved. Um, if everybody involved in this relationship, anybody new that comes in, is consenting to working in that hierarchy, then as long as it works for them and nobody's getting hurt, then it's their relationship.
Yes, I understand that. So actually, this sort of brings me to a point though,
Yes.
where of course this is all coming from my objective opinion. Um, subjective opinion. My apologies. In any case, this is all subjective, all just my opinion. But so this is all about ethical non-monogamy.
Yes.
However, we've only really gotten like one hash in uh to these types, but hierarchical polyamory always sort of brings this out for me that yes, of course, it can be done in a way where everybody's consenting and is okay with it. But having seen and read things about hierarchical polyamory, it just gives me the ick.
That's fair.
And that being said, though, you'll go into more sorts of polyamory and other sorts of like E&M. But my only issue with this is them all being labeled ethical non-monogamy.
Mhm.
And the reason why I sort of take an issue with that is that while these are recognized as, you know, general sort of structures of relationships that can be ethical, every single one of these can be so unethical
Mhm.
and very toxic. Not to say that monogamous relationships aren't the same way. Some can be ethical, and both partners um, act ethically towards each other and towards their relationship. But yeah, that's sort of my issue with this is that this staging of like this is what ethical relationships look like when it's also kind of what unethical relationships look like. The
I
difference is in like nuance, right?
Yes. So you're taking it just so that I'm understanding, you're taking an issue with it being called ethical non-monogamy
Yeah.
as opposed to just non-monogamy.
Yeah, because all of these are types of non-monogamy,
Yes.
and there's nothing to me. There's nothing in these structures inherently that makes
That
them
make them more
ethical
ethical
than any other structure.
this is true. I think the reason why the community calls it ethical non-monogamy is to kind of give it a prettier tag, because non-monogamy is already shunned and looked down upon as much, and is dangerous as much as it is already.
Fair, understandable. I have seen how a lot of
So
people.
they're saying that this is not your getaway to cheat on your spouse.
Yeah, yeah, I get that.
So that's why it's referred to as E&M, as ethical non-monogamy. Is to be like, hey, we do things ethically over here. So if you're trying to cheat on your spouse and just find a hookup, this is not the place for you to do this.
Yeah, I understand that, but also I don't think that labeling it ethical non-monogamy is going to change anybody's mind.
This may be the case. Um, that would definitely me have give make. I would need to do a lot more research and figure out where it came from, see if there's any other reasons why it's called ethical non-monogamy. That's just across the community what it has been unanimously understood for beyond the time that I've been in the community. So,
Yeah, in any
in
case.
any case, um, but within the community, like I was saying, there is two things for certain that I've learned so far that is kind of overall looked down upon, and that is hierarchical polyamory.
Mhm.
Though that one is more allowed,
Accepted?
more accepted. Yes, thank you. More accepted than the secondary one, which is unicorn hunting. Or there's technically another one. I don't remember what the other one's called, but it's the same thing for just. it- It's what it is unicorn hunting is when a married or long term committed partner relationship goes out hunting for a third person to use as only just for sex. And they're like, they're only allowed to be with the dominant person, whoever, like the husband, or if the wife finds the person, they're only allowed to be with each other together as a threesome. They're not allowed to be there. Then they're not this third person, this unicorn, is not involved in the life in any other manner other than just to have sex with.
Yeah.
And that is unicorn hunting, and that is heavily frowned upon. Go ahead.
Just my only issue with that, which I do agree that that is the dynamics involved in that sort of lend itself to being unethical,
Mm-hmm.
but but it is not much different than swinging, and that very
Mm-hmm.
dynamic could come up in swinging.
Yeah. Um, but it's to play that you're trying to be polyamorous while that being actually what you're doing. Where the person, everybody's not consenting in this manner. You're being manipulative.
Eh, yeah, I understand. And that's sort of where I was getting at, where it's sort of more predisposed that relationship dynamic is more predisposed to being toxic. But also, it's not like somebody couldn't be willing to be sexually involved with a committed couple in a very strict context.
Oh yeah, for sure. And that's something I was about to say was that like cuz there was two poly groups that I've been a part of locally. And one poly group absolutely outright forbid unicorn hunting and would just ban people right off the bat. Whereas the group that I'm currently in now, we don't ban them. Like they don't get banned the first time that they mention it. But we start trying to teach them, hey, this is not, it is not okay to be manipulate other people. If everybody is involved and is consenting and that's just what they want to be used, how they want the relationship to work, that's fine. But don't advertise it as you're looking for a partner when you're not looking for a partner. And we try to educate them on what is actually ethical.
Yeah.
But those are the two biggest things that I know about polyamory. As far as like things that are frowned upon within the polyamorous or E&M community.
Yeah.
So anyways, of course, opposing or not opposing, but I guess maybe opposing. Anyways, then you have
Diametrically sort of
yes,
goes.
that's what I was that's the word that I was trying to think of. Diametrical. But is non-hierarchical polyamory, which means there's no prioritization. All partners are equal. Which on that, I also want to say that while all partners may be equal, if you have a spouse or nesting partner, which a nesting partner is, as it sounds, somebody that lives with you, you've agreed on responsibilities together, then while they don't have a higher priority in the relationships, but you've built a life together, you've committed to responsibilities and things like that, that does take priority. But everybody involved generally understands this and has agreed to all these things. So it's like my mom comes first before anybody else. And all my partners understand that and are okay with that.
Yeah.
You know, even to the point of where sometimes my other partners are more concerned about you than I am. Hey, if you needed to go take care of Eric or this or that, or make sure that it's okay with Eric and stuff, I'm like, I mean, I'll let him know and make sure there's nothing responsibility wise that I've already agreed to that I don't know about, or things that I might be not be thinking about, but I don't have to ask your permission.
That's something that I do agree with.
And I do those things out of respect and to make sure that I'm not forgetting something. But there have been times of the various partners that I've had that have said something about, make sure it's okay with Eric and stuff. I'm like, I don't have to get permission. And it's just been funny to me that every partner that I've had has been that way. But But no, so um then you've got V polyamory. Have you heard of V polyamory? It is where three people are involved, but not all three are in a relationship together. So think A and B are dating, and A and C are dating, but B and C are not dating, right? So it forms a V.
Yeah.
And then you got triad or throuple, which I'm pretty sure you've heard the term thrown around once or twice at least.
It's all over in Pathfinder.
Yep. Uh
Got that thruple trouble.
yeah, but that is where A, B, and C are all dating each other. And then you got a quad, which is similar to a throuple or a triad, but as the name would indicate is four people. And then some other oh, I didn't put that one on there either. I'm gonna shout this one out, but I don't remember exactly how it works. This was one that I was curious about, and some of the things that on its like tenets, um, about what it's kind of about struck me, and then some things was like, well, maybe not. There's called relationship anarchy or relationship anarchist. That one, anybody that's listening, go do your own homework on that one because I ain't got you there. Unless you want to look it up right now while I'm talking about these. And
sure, I can.
Okay, cool. Because you might actually understand it better than I did. So then you got kitchen table polyamory, abbreviated to KTP, mostly abbreviated when it comes to typing and reading. But it is where so the group of individuals who are all connected through or a handful of relationships is called the polycule. And members of the polycule who are dating the same person but aren't dating, so like in a V, A and C are both dating B. A and C are what's known as metamors. So kitchen table polyamory is where everybody in the polycule can sit at a kitchen table and dine together, or a dinner table, or brunch table, or whatever kind of table you want to call it, but can sit at a table and share conversations with each other. So it's basically, you don't necessarily have to be friends, like close friends or anything, but you need kind of be friends, at least closer acquaintances and stuff like that. And then you have garden party polyamory, which is similar to kitchen table polyamory, but sometimes metamors don't want to be that close to each other. So they're okay with meeting every once in a while, say for birthdays or holidays or something like that. But it's more like a garden party of, okay, you're over there and you're over there and you're just kind of more spread out versus sitting at a close dining table together. And then you've got solo polyamory, which is just a person who has various relationships but maintains an independent lifestyle. Uh, so did you find out about relationship anarchy yet?
A bit, yes.
Do you want to keep reading or you want to talk about it now?
We can talk about it a bit.
Okay.
And oddly enough, even though I am not the polyamorous one, I do, however, have a little bit of loose study about anarchy and
Mhm.
anarchism. So this is just a lot of the very similar sort of thought processes and philosophies behind um, uh, anarchism, like societally, politically, as applied to a relationship. I'll go ahead and read the
Tenants or whatever.
well, give me a second.
I can't remember. It's got a name.
The first paragraph here on Wikipedia.
Okay.
Relationship anarchy, sometimes abbreviated RA, is the application of anarchist principles to intimate relationships. Its values include autonomy, anti hierarchical practices, anti normativity, and community interdependence. RA is explicitly anti amatonormative and anti mononormative, and is commonly, but not always, non monogamous, which is an interesting point. This is distinct from polyamory, solo poly, swinging, and other forms of quote unquote dating, which may include structures such as amatonormativity, hierarchy of intimate relationships, and autonomy limiting rules. It has also been interpreted as a new paradigm in which closeness and autonomy are no longer considered to create dilemmas within a relationship.
Those were a lot of big words and I don't know what they mean.
Yeah, so basically, so one of them that you heard, amatonormativity,
Mhm.
is the set of societal assumptions that everyone prospers with an exclusive romantic relationship.
Okay.
So basically, it's just the societal expectation for,
Monogamy.
well, not necessarily monogamy, but exclusive relationships. That exclusive relationships are better and stronger
Mm.
inherently. And RA is explicitly anti-amatonormative. So it does not believe that exclusive relationships are inherently better.
Okay.
And then you've got mononormative, which is sort of the same, but it is more saying that monosexuality, having one sexual partner, and monogamy, which they're not explicitly the same, that they are fundamental and natural within society, which the Western world, quote unquote, sort of holds that in general.
Mhm.
But if you take a wider look, it's not necessarily obvious that it's so normal and natural, as all sorts of non-monogamy and shades therein have existed naturally throughout human history.
Mhm.
And sort of with RA, what I'm seeing is the core of this is which I did see mention of 9 pillars or 9 statements that make up the RA
Yes.
manifesto.
Yes.
I don't see it right here. I can go look it up later.
Yeah.
Listeners, should we have any, can go look it up. But more or less, it's just taking the principles in anarchy of a combination of autonomy,
Mm-hmm.
personal autonomy,
Mm-hmm.
with community interdependence,
Mm.
which are two things that are like core pillars of anarchy, where every person is their own, and there shouldn't really be limitations on them for the most part. It doesn't mean that nothing happens to you if you're an asshole,
Yeah.
but just societally, you're not limited because of expected roles. But
Okay.
also combining that with the interdependence, the way that we as humanity are strongest and work best is if you build community.
Yeah.
Non-hierarchical, no hard structures of power.
Mm-hmm.
Just get friends, more or less,
Yeah.
and uh, build community to where everybody sort of helps each other.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, those tenets are applied to, as it says, to intimate relationships. And that's sort of the whole thing with RA.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. Um, so other types of non-monogamy uh include polygamy, which is marrying more than one person. Typically it's usually the male or masculine um
Yeah.
getting more wives, right?
Like traditionally, if especially if you look at it through a lot of
Religious lenses.
yeah. But that's one that I see that can quickly and kind of is a lot more easily uh turned unethical.
Yes. Uh Polyfidelity, did I say that right?
Yes.
Okay, polyfidelity, which is exclusive but equal partnerships between multiple people. So it's still an exclusive relationship, so you're not dating outside of the relationship, but instead of just two people, it's more than two people.
I don't quite understand how that works, to be honest.
So this is kind of another thing with unicorn hunting, is that when they find their unicorn, they say she's not allowed to have any other relationships.
Oh,
She
right.
can only be with them.
Yeah.
And so what polyfidelity means is that, say you got four people. Y'all have agreed to be a unit and you're not going out and dating anymore.
Ah. So in other words, it's a polycule in which everything, it's a closed polycule, more or less.
Yes, you've got everybody you want. You're not dating any more people. Nobody's dating any more people.
Yeah, I understand that.
Then you've got open relationships, which this one I don't quite understand. I used it before I knew what polyamory was
Yeah.
and that it was a thing. So which we'll get to this kind of in a minute. But it said that it was two people in a primary relationship that agree that they may have more than one romantic sexual partner. I don't understand how that's different than polyamory.
I think that so I think that the open relationship thing, to be honest, is closer to like a hierarchical uh
Relationship.
relationship, but also kind of like V polyamory.
Mm-hmm.
But instead of being, it's more like, I don't know what shape, but it's two V's that intersect. Right?
Ah,
You get it?
okay, yes. I can understand that. Then you have casual
But
dating. Go ahead.
well, there was one more thing I was going to say about it.
Yes.
Because to be real with it, it's for monogamous people who are dipping their toe into it, usually because one person is has realized that they are polyamorous, and because
Yeah.
of societal expectations, they didn't know this before they got in a monogamous relationship.
Yeah. That is very fair, to be real. That is 100% true.
Because,
Uh
like you said, that sort of happened with us.
yeah.
And honestly, best thing, learn about polyamory,
Yes.
rip off that bandage, and
Yes.
hopefully both of you can adapt to a new lifestyle together.
Yes, for sure. For sure.
But it usually almost never happens.
Yeah, unfortunately.
It's a big change,
Yeah.
having a intimate relationship, a committed relationship, and having the paradigm, the dynamics of it switch entirely.
Yeah. And we'll get into that. How
Yeah.
how someone deals with that here in just a minute. There's two more left. There's casual dating, which is having one or more romantic sexual partners without relationships being too serious. Also without possibly each other knowing about each other if you're doing it that close. I don't know how, like, at one point part I feel like I shouldn't have to disclose that to anybody, but then I also am like, well, you would want to know if someone else was dating somebody, like, so there's got to be like a limit, a line where you're like, okay, you got to let other people know, unless that's the kind of relationship that you like, you're upfront about that, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. um but yeah, and then swinging, which is swapping of sexual partners within a group. So there's no, sorry, apologies. My mom's dog is having a nightmare. Startled me for a minute. Mom should be able to wake her up. Um,
Real bad.
Mom got her. Okay. Sorry for the weird intrusion. We are recording this in real time, in real life. Things do happen. And I could technically cut it out, but this is kind of our real life shit. So whatever. So you can mark it. Cool. Uh, Learning new things about our setup. Anyway, so the next thing that I was going to talk to is all that brings us to talking about what we practice and about us. So, as mentioned before, Eric is currently monogamous.
Yeah.
But we practice kitchen table polyamory. Now, to go back a little further, do you mind if I tell kind of our history?
If you would like to. Which, can I preface this with something?
Yes.
Because I am just by definition, by the situation, monogamous. But it's not necessarily that I believe in monogamy being special.
Mm-hmm.
It's more that I don't people. It's just me as a person. I'm a very, and you know this very well, I'm a very solitary person.
Yes.
I struggle to have and keep many interpersonal relationships.
Mm-hmm.
So I could imagine being polyamorous, but also every single time I do, it is exhausting
Mm-hmm.
because it is too many people.
Because it is exhausting.
Yes, and I just cannot. I hang out with people for 30 minutes and I'm done for a month.
Right. I spent time with people today, and I just get home and I was so drained.
But
But
yeah, that's a thing that I sort of think makes our dynamic work is that,
you don't crave people.
well, no. What makes our dynamic work, what I was getting at, is that
Oh.
I'm not like dogmatically monogamous, right?
Oh, okay, that's what you're getting at. Yeah.
I'm not mononormative,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
I believe that it's a perfectly polyamory and non-monogamy are perfectly fine ways to live.
Yeah.
Monogamy is my choice because I don't want to try to upkeep more than one romantic relationship.
That's fair. That is very fair and
Yeah.
very valid.
Because that is something that always comes up whenever talking about polyamory and us is how does this work?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And it works because unlike a lot of monogamous people who are like diametrically opposed and they see polyamory and non-monogamy as like super high taboos and just like moral failings.
Yeah.
That's not why I'm monogamous. I'm monogamous more or less because I it, to me it's a simpler lifestyle that fits my personal social dynamic.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that definitely makes sense. Um, so when oh god, it has been 15 years.
Of
When
you and
we
I
first
yes.
got yeah, of when we first got together, and I was just coming out of a relationship, and literally um but I was what was I, 17?
Yes.
Yes, I was 17. So I had only within the past couple years realized I was bisexual.
Mhm.
And all that stuff was just recently coming out to public view.
Yes.
And so, all the sub names and stuff, Pan and Omni and all that stuff didn't really
Oh no,
exist
that was
then.
still mostly evolving.
Yeah.
And also mind you, this is back when like Facebook was the absolute hotness in social media.
Yeah. This was back then,
Mhm.
back right at the end of MySpace.
Yeah, like MySpace was more or less
Oh dear God,
dying.
that's an old
Yeah.
name
Oh
for some
fuck.
people.
We're old heads, man. We're fucking ancient. But
Yeah.
And like fucking gay marriage wasn't even legal yet.
Yeah, and so I had recently figured out that I was bi, which was no honestly looking back on it, so many years later, was no surprise at how my childhood went and the things that I did in my childhood. Oh, duh, that makes perfect sense. But so I left my ex to be with you,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't remember why we came to this discussion. All I remember is that um I get when we get engaged, I get told by a group of my so-called friends at that point that I had chosen because I was getting married to a male and that I was no longer bi. I was like, that's not true. I still like girls.
By the way, sure.
Yes. And that, at least in my mind now, that got me thinking. And I'm like, wait, it's not fair. If I'm married, I won't get to ever be with a girl. I won't be able to do all the things. And I was like, wait a second, it's not fair. If I get married, I won't ever get to be with anybody else. I was like, but I don't want just one. and and then we ended up doing something with somebody else. I don't even remember who was. My brain can't even be arsed to give me a timeline right now for people. But we ended up being with somebody, and uh we or no, I asked if we could have an open marriage or something, and you said that you kind of agreed with it, and that yeah, sure, it'd be fine and cool. Not really thinking about it a lot. We were young.
I was going to say we didn't really think about it, but of course we didn't. We were both really young.
Yeah, we were young, and so when we finally did talk about it a little bit after having a couple girlfriends, um, it came to it that you didn't want to know anything about because it came down to me wanting to do something with another guy.
Well,
Or is there's more before that?
There is a crucial point that you're leaving out.
Yes, please correct me.
That the relationship with the open relationship with the girlfriends ended because you were having FOMO.
Oh yes, yes, yes. I should have mentioned that. Yes, I ended up at the last straw was I was not confident in myself and in our relationship because our relationship was brand new.
Yeah.
And I have had at that point because I think I've grown a lot since then
I would agree.
and had so much hate for myself that I just wanted you to be happy, even if that meant not with me. I was like, "Oh, I'm a failure. I'm nothing because and you just should be happy with the other person." And I was just very jealous.
So frustrating.
Yeah, I know. I know, right?
Because
I want to go back and be like, "Chill the fuck out."
you were young and melodramatic and also just throwing yourself under the bus for absolutely no goddamn reason.
But yeah, it was just like yeah. In any case,
But
so yeah.
yeah, that's what kind of closed things off for a while.
Yes.
And then you asked to open things back up like a few years later.
Yeah, was that when I asked to go with that one guy that I'm not naming names?
Yeah, yeah, no need to name names. But yeah,
Yes.
that's when I was like, okay, if this is a thing, I don't really want to know anything about it. And by that time, I was done dealing with other people, right?
Yeah.
I had decided that too much, too many.
Yeah.
And so you go off, do you, and uh I don't
You
want
don't
to know
want to know
anything
anything.
about it.
Yeah.
And honestly, not the best thing because also we didn't do all the talking and I didn't do
Mm-hmm.
all the like I don't know.
There
But
was no communication about it. It was just like, yeah, sure, you. I just don't want to know about it.
yeah, and it which that ultimately that is not ethical monogamy now is it? Or non-monogamy
No,
now is it?
no, it is not.
And yeah, we didn't really talk about it and it, we didn't really do anything. And that's sort of what I feel like the message here is that it does take a lot of work because you are changing the
Mm-hmm.
paradigm of a very big part of your life. You can't just go, okay, you can just go out and do whatever.
Yeah, for sure. There is, which that's something that kind of goes above all of this is communication is key in not just any relationship. Not communication is key in every relationship, but especially polyamorous relationships or
Yeah.
non-monogamous relationships. It's key in all relationships, but is especially key in non-monogamous relationships. And we did not do that very well.
No.
So I was with one person a few times and then life happened. My mom broke her back, my grandmother got sick, this and that. And I just did not have time for any other relationships. Fast forward a couple more years, and I started doing my thing again. Every now and then I would get on dating sites and see if I matched with anybody, whatever. And I tried a few uh 1 day stands cuz I didn't do it at night.
Yeah.
And that really didn't work for me. Um Turns out I learned that I was demisexual, which means I have to have a some kind of connection with you before sex does anything for me.
Yes.
Learned that through that. And then this holiday season is 2 years since or right around it's been 2 years already. Because I know it was before Thanksgiving. When we kind of had our limit, our breaking point. And uh it was brought back to your forefront of what I was doing when I was going out with these friends and you had to come kind of to a there was a how to say it what words am I looking for. Anyways, breaking point. So currently we practice kitchen table polyamory.
Yeah.
It didn't start out that way. And this will also kind of bring us into our next topic of what we've struggled with. Because I think instead of breaking them up into topics, we've already gone over time. Um, but this is kind of a big topic. So I did have it structured out to have like what we struggle with and what struggles have we faced and stuff. But I think that just talking about our journey through polyamory is going to bring up what we struggle with it, because this is where we're coming to the some of the struggles. So I've struggled with a lot of things. I'll talk about that at the end, because this is kind of right where you kind of shine with all the growth that you've done.
So yeah, it just sort of came to a point where we couldn't not communicate about things anymore. And you'd go off to who knows where, do, well, not who knows what, kind of know what, with who knows who, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that lack of communication it didn't work.
Yeah.
So we decided really,
Mm-hmm.
that it would be best if we talked about it a bit more. And yeah, of course, it's easier at first if you don't talk about it. If you don't pay attention to your problems, then it's easier until it's not.
Yeah.
And then it's a big problem that you can't ignore.
Mm-hmm.
And setting up lines of communication is difficult. Talking about emotional topics is difficult.
Yeah.
And whatnot. And changing your mind about things and how things are from the way that you're brought up
Yeah.
is difficult. So it took a whole lot of thinking and talking about things.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, over the course of, we went to couples therapy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Which,
And good.
I do want to shout out. Our therapist was relatively good. I just don't think that she was equipped to help us much.
Yes.
She helped us some, but I just think that a big part of our issues were we're fucking broke, right?
Right.
And our material conditions aren't very good.
Yeah. What is that? Maslow's hierarchy of
Needs, yes.
needs. Yes. So yeah, that base thing wasn't being met. Isn't being met.
We were at the base level where we weren't really meeting all of our material needs. So like our emotional needs, we couldn't even begin to like work on them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then also her trying to deal with this burgeoning weird shape of polyamory,
Yeah.
which she didn't quite get.
Mm-hmm.
Which, to be honest, even a lot of people who are and have been for quite a while polyamorous also don't get our dynamic.
This is fair.
Because it's rare. It's very rare and strange.
Mm-hmm. But yeah. So, I mean, she did the best she could. And the one thing that she did give to us is that you really need more communication. And we still, and also spending time with each other.
Mm-hmm.
And we still fall back into old habits, and we still forget to do those things. But it was kind of a an eye-opener of, hey, you thought that you've been great at talking to each other all these 15 years. No, really, you haven't, and you need to be better.
Yeah, that's very true.
But so over the course of about 2 months, we had several intense conversations, and it was a decision of how we wanted to proceed, not just with our relationships, but with our life in general too, because we've been together for, at this point, 14 years, 13 years.
Up to that point, about 13 years.
Yeah. And so this was like what we were going to do going forward. And the funny thing was that, so I didn't know what polyamory was back when we were calling it an open relationship.
Yep.
Then I started seeing a friend of mine that I made through Critical Role posting memes, or not memes, but graphics, infographics and stuff.
Yeah.
And about polyamory. And I was like, "Oh yeah, that's that thing that I do. Oh yeah, that's that thing, right?" And so I started sharing them on Facebook with all my people that I know, all my family that are on my Facebook. And it did not at all once occur to me that if I'm polyamorous, so if my relationship is polyamorous, that means your relationship is polyamorous too. And so I started learning about these things, and so then I brought it up to you once it kind of came to a head, and I started doing all this research and sending you links for you to read, and I joined a Discord server, which I'm still a part of, from a resource known as poly.land or polyland. The website is polyland, or poly.land. No, I think there's just poly.land on Twitter because Polyland was taken or something. But, and because I think one of the things that you struggled with at the beginning was saying that it just didn't work. Right? And because honestly, I don't know what all shifted for you. You were against the beginning, saying that it would hurt you, and then I was meeting these people in this Discord server and telling you these anecdotes from these people that have successfully lived this lifestyle for years, and then you're okay with it.
Well,
so there's a journey there that I don't really know.
Yeah, it's where I was talking about, sort of dynamic and like things changing, and I think there were a couple of big changes on my side in viewpoint.
Mm-hmm.
One of which is sort of trust, where the trust was previously that I don't know, this sounds too possessive, but it was sort of like a co-operative possession, like I'm yours, you're mine, and whatnot.
Yeah.
Which sounds weird coming out of my mouth, because that's not at all how I really think now.
Mm-hmm.
And also a different, smaller view of equality, of what is equal in a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Of like, well, if you're going off doing all this stuff and I'm just fucking here, well, that's not fair. It's not equal. But I ended up sort of rethinking things,
Mm-hmm.
where the trust became more about trusting you and being having trust in our relationship, that it's still fulfilling, that we still have the same bond, right? It isn't diminished. And I still I will still be fulfilled by this relationship, right?
Yeah.
And then also trusting that at the end of the day, even if you're staying a night somewhere else, whatnot, not necessarily talking physically, but at the end of the day, you're here, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then, like I was saying, a different view on what is equal,
Yeah.
right? To where it's not like who's getting what necessarily, but it's everybody getting what they need
What they need.
out of the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Is everybody in the relationship between me and you
Mm-hmm.
a good partner?
Yeah.
And if there's anything outside of that, as long as it's not malicious, like retroactively,
Mm-hmm.
then it's still how it needs to be, right? It's
Yeah.
still a good relationship. And it was that change of perspective, sort of a broadening of things.
Huh.
And it's led to a lot of benefits and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
Because, as you well know, I'm a pretty neurotic guy.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're out with somebody else, this has allowed a network of people that I know and like and trust.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that someone's got your back elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
If there's issues that I'm not seeing, there are other people who can message me and go, "Hey, dummy, check on this, right? Check in on her."
Yeah, and that's actually happened.
Yes, it's happened a few times, and I am super appreciative of that.
The one in my brain right now is the one where one of my partners um messaged you or called you because I was sitting here typing nonsense,
Hmm. Hmm.
and they were like, "Hey, check on Victoria or Lily is cuz is she okay?
Yeah,
Cuz
she good.
she sent me this message." I had taken some medicine and needed to have been in bed before.
Yeah.
But yeah. So we talked and we decided, and then shortly after that funny story, um his sister still had me on his Facebook page, and she messaged me. She was like, or she commented on one of my posts about polyamory and was like, "Is Eric okay with this? You cannot tell me that Eric is agreeing to this. Is Eric okay with this?" Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, "Yeah. Yeah. Whoops. I'm sorry. I didn't realize I just added you to your entire family, but I've apparently been adding you to your entire family since before we had the
Which,
conversation."
yeah, that is a thing that we hadn't really thought about up until then. Is even if you're in a happy you know polyamorous relationship, just the optics of that don't really track, and there's sort of a closet for polyamory, just like there is any sort
Oh
of not
yeah.
being straight.
That's like you can get from government jobs, you can be fired for that.
Yeah, yeah. And that was sort of a thing that we hadn't really thought about up until then.
Mhm.
Which, I mean, it's my family, so it wasn't that big of a loss.
I mean, yeah, it just dawned on me that me saying that and sharing those things was I was not just affecting myself.
Yeah, that's true.
And that is something that you got to think about. And that brings to the forefront that you aren't just affecting yourself when you have multiple partners.
You're affecting even more people than you're used to affecting.
Yes.
Which is a good reason why we are always very vague about anybody who is not us.
Yep.
That and also just how internet be.
Yes. But yeah, so we've been open in some manner since 2009, but we have been outed as polyamorous, and
I would say dedicated to
that's what
polyamory and E&M.
that was what I was just about to say was dedicated. I was just trying to find the word dedicated. But we have been dedicated as polyamorous E&M since 2022.
Something like that. Yeah.
It was the end of the I can't remember now. 25 will be 2 years. So 5, 4,
2023.
3. So yeah, the end of 2022.
Yeah.
And so what, since being dedicated to polyamory, what are the struggles that you've gone through? What have you had to face? Aside from what you've already talked about.
Since then, it's gotten quite a bit easier for me. I mean, specifically attributed to it, there's not a whole lot. Like sometimes there is a bit more loneliness because you're off doing stuff. But also, like, I've got a weird mental thing where I get lonely even when I'm around people.
That's fair. I do the same thing. And that's been a source of, I don't understand, and people thinking that things are so much worse than they actually are, because they're like, how can you feel like you're lonely when you're around somebody?
All the fucking time. And I think that that's been a part of challenge in just our relationship.
Yeah.
Where we can be together, doing things together, talking, and it's really fulfilling. It's nice, and we're talking, and then all of a sudden it just hits, right?
Yeah, and you just get lonely.
And all of a sudden you feel isolated, even if you're there.
Yep. Yeah, so loneliness.
Yeah. And maybe like ancillary, like auxiliary effects of like social drama things that roll off because
You were here.
I'm so like anti any of that.
Yeah.
That's a big portion of why I'm not a very social person, is I just can't deal with people, right?
Mm-hmm. How about jealousy? Have you dealt with any of that?
Not a whole lot, not in a while. I did at first,
Mm-hmm.
but like that's part of the whole view changing thing, is that I realized at the end of the day, as long as we we maintain our relationship, we do what we need to do to keep our relationship healthy. At the end of the day, there's nothing to be jealous about, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because our relationship is ours. Your relationship with anyone else is different.
Mm-hmm.
Not better, not worse, just different.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. But also, we've been together for 15 years now, right?
Yeah.
And so that's time that we've spent together, that our relationships gotten stronger. We've gone through all sorts of trials and tribulations. Like, I don't know what sort of relationship I can be jealous about.
Mm-hmm.
Because even if there are things that are different about them, and of course there are going to be because there's different people in them, right? They're all
Mm-hmm.
going to have you in common, but they're not going to have me in common. So it's going to be different.
Yeah.
So even if they're different, it doesn't mean it's better or more privileged or anything of the sort.
Mm-hmm.
It's just different. It's not anything to be jealous about.
Yeah. And that about sums up all the stuff you struggle with?
More or less, yeah.
So for me, seeing as I'm the polyamorous one, have dealt with my fair share of struggles. Jealousy definitely being one, when my partner has other partners, because I am very self-deprecating.
Yeah.
And so I still have that voice that I had back then of, oh, they're not happy with me. They should just not be with me. But then I have to remind myself, I'm like, they choose to be with you. So just let them choose.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a very, very loud, bad voice in my head that I have to deal with. And then the hurt and traumatization, uh, from breakups, they've been, I don't have a scale to compare them on, but pretty bad.
There's been a few very, very nasty ones.
Yes. And then juggling to make sure that I'm giving adequate affection and attention to each of my partners, making sure that everybody is getting what they need out of the relationship. So it's definitely a challenge. And then you got politics when you got more than one person involved.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And, it's also, well, it's a lot more dating.
Yeah.
Because, in a monogamous relationship, you stop dating once you get married. So you don't have to go through any more drama with any other people, new people and things like that. When you're E&M, then that doesn't stop. Uh, but, like being hurt repeatedly and feeling like it's all my fault and, just, yeah, there's a lot of joy to come from it, but there's also a lot of hurt. To be polyamorous is to take risks. Because rejection is a part of the dating process, and not even most people will be around long term. That is something I was reminded of recently from my current partner after a breakup with my last partner that lasted all of like 5 or 6 days. Yep. That one was just stupid.
True. I agree with that. A lot of times people, it takes a special bond to fit together that closely, right?
Yeah.
And for some people, for a lot of people, it is truly that one at a time in a lifetime.
Mm.
For some people, it is multiple people, but it's not proportionally a lot of the people, right? It's not a
Yeah.
lot of the people that they like that are gonna stick around.
Yeah.
It takes a particular fit. It takes a particular type of bond And then it takes a whole hell of a lot of work
Mm-hmm.
to make it work.
That's what I'm finding I'm running into. As far as the people that I've been with
Yeah, everybody's got to
is,
want to make it work.
yeah, they're not sticking around. They're not wanting to make anything work.
Yeah.
Like
And
the
I mean,
first fucking roadblock and nope, we're done.
yeah, I
I'm
mean,
like,
to be honest, to some point, if you come across a thing and you go, this isn't a direction I want to really go in, right?
mm-hmm.
Then it is better to bail out earlier.
Yeah.
Now, technically, it doesn't have to be as acrimonious or dramatic as it's been,
Mm.
but getting out early it is a legitimate thing to do, right?
I mean, that's fair.
But yeah, that's the thing is that you uh have to want to make the relationship work. You have to want to deal with it even if you're having a bad time in a
Mm-hmm.
particular time, right?
Yep. But that's, I don't know. I feel like that's just any relationship, not just an E&M relationship.
Yeah, for sure. E&M is just you're doing that,
Multiple times.
yeah, multiple times, much more often.
Mm-hmm. And it gets exhausting.
Mm-hmm.
I know you're sitting here going, tell me about it. And I'm not even the one that's dating people.
Yeah, that's because I've got a very short fuse for dealing with
That's,
people.
and I feel awful for putting you through all this.
Ah,
Because you gotta deal with me being heartbroken.
yeah, it does kind of suck.
But that has been our journey through polyamory to,
Mm-hmm.
and including this past week.
Yeah, it's an ongoing thing.
Yeah.
Life keeps on going.
All right. So, what do you want to say for the closing thing? Because we've gone 30 minutes over our window that we were shooting for. Look at me. I was afraid that we weren't gonna have enough to fill up an hour.
That's what my closing remark was going to be is,
Oh.
you thought we weren't going to make an hour.
Yeah, sorry guys. We intend on our podcasts to be an hour, but don't hold us to that because they might be more than an hour. They might be shorter than an hour. Just,
Yeah.
there will be words.
Yep. But yeah, overall, just I guess in summary, in closing, uh, ethical non-monogamy and polyamory and all the like is just a alternate lifestyle. It's not lesser. It's not any less ethical, but it is a whole hell of a lot of work, like any relationship is.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes, it is. Well, thank you guys for joining us and hanging out and listening us to rambling about polyamory and our walk through it and E&M and stuff. I hope you learned something or have something to look up and take you down a rabbit hole. Until we talk to you next time, this has been Lily and
And
and a veiled tete-a-tete. See you guys next time.
bye.